All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for another Her Wild Outdoors episode. Michelle Scheuermann, hello. Thank you for joining.
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. And we did this quick. Like we met each other at the POMA conference. We're
Yes.
like, hey, we should do a podcast. Bam.
Here we are. I love it because I think that those are, we didn't get a whole lot of a chance to sit down and talk to each other because it's a conference. There are tons of people there. And so you don't get to just be like, okay, one-on-one for an hour. But guess what I get to do today?
Yeah.
And I love
That's the beauty of it, right?
It really is.
Let's book a podcast. We'll get this done.
Yeah. And we get to kind of know each other more behind the scenes in a one-on-one conversation. I think that's why I love doing this, because I feel like I leave these conversations with a friend, and it's because we can get kind of down to who you are and what your passions are and why they are what they are. So I'm grateful that you are here today on Zoom, which makes it so much easier sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, give us just a little bit of a background on who you are. And I mean, you're the president of POMA, which is how I've met you. But give us just a little bit of background before that on how the outdoors has infiltrated your life, how it has inspired you.
Sure. Well, the outdoors has always been a part of my life because I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. I milked cows. I raised baby calves. I raised baby chicks and baby ducks. I killed them.
Yeah. Because that's farm life.
Living the cycle of life very quickly. Grew up on a farm. I was in 4-H. I showed dairy cattle was my thing. I was very good at it. Loved horses. I showed rabbits even. Oh my God. Never got into pigs. Disgusting creatures.
Some people would say that about rabbits too sometimes.
Nope. Love my rabbits. Yeah, it was the simple life, definitely, back then. I mean, we were 15 miles from any town, literally out in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota, dirt roads everywhere. I was the farmer's daughter, the farmer's kid. I'm the youngest of 4. There was 12 years between my sister and I. So when she was 18, graduating from high school, one of my brothers was graduating from 8th grade. It was a thing back then. You graduated from 8th grade.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I was graduating from kindergarten. And as soon as she graduated, she left. She left because she was the firstborn. She was the daughter. She got the heck out of Dodge and, was looking for the big city life. So yeah, I think that's where my independent streak comes from, because I had to learn to be comfortable by myself and on my own, and do my own thing.
Yeah. And that makes sense. That makes sense, though. I mean, my brother is 10 years younger than me. And even though we have a great relationship, he, for the most part, the last, I would say 6 years of his life, he was an only child. And, by the time you get through 4 kids, you're dude, you can raise yourself.
Forgotten about. I was literally forgotten at school one time. Like, my brothers forgot about me. My teacher had to call my parents to come pick me up. I mean, scarred to this day. So you get to do all the things that they never got. My sister is pissed to this day.
Oh yeah.
That I got swimming lessons.
I know that feeling. But, I got to do things growing up that, I feel like I had more of a thumb on my head because it was first child, what if we mess up? But I feel like when I did leave, I was probably a lot like your sister. I just left. And I didn't really come back.
No, she didn't either.
No.
She never looked back. No.
No. So each kid, I guess, whatever birth order, if you want to apply all of that.
It's true.
That it is like therapy as we went through it. It explains a whole lot for birth order, but I think each person in that order has its place and has their place in society. And so, like, I married a baby of the family.
So did I. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the independence that comes from what you grew up in kind of makes who you are today.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I think it dictates the remainder of your life, whether you believe in it or not. Sorry, it does.
Yeah, no, it does. And I think that you can change depending on whatever, like we had a couple things happen growing up in which I switched your normal birth order personality with my younger sister. And
really?
We're only 13 months apart, so we're very close to Irish twins of age, but we did switch that. She's the type A personality, which is usually that firstborn, and I'm more of the peacemaker. And so we kind of switched roles because of certain things that happened along the way growing up. And so I think, it all just depends. It depends on what you go through, on how, who steps up and takes over that leadership position. But yeah, I love 4-H. We grew up in a small town. I was not allowed to be a part of 4-H, but oh yeah, it was. So we lived in the city. It was a small city, but we lived inside of the city. And then all of my friends with the little country school that I then went to were all in 4-H. So I was always jealous, always. We had a friend come. I had a friend in class who came and did an oral presentation on how to castrate a bull.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. Everybody else was in class going, that's disgusting. I was going, tell me more.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, it is. It is. But my nieces were in 4-H. My kids have been able to experience, raising rabbits and watching the process, like you said, from beginning to end, because those rabbits were sold as meat rabbits. And so I think
you learn the cycle of life, and you learn to be okay with it.
Yeah, you learn where your food comes from, dadgummit. Yep. And I think that it's so valuable that even though I wasn't in it, I was able to learn from friends who were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved in 4-H. Like I said, I did dairy. So in the dairy part, you grabbed, I showed heifers, I showed cows. Mm-hmm. Usually you grabbed an animal from the herd that you felt displayed the best, characteristics that was going to be judged. You calmed that animal down, you trained them. Some were easier than others. And you showed them, and this animal was your pet. You slept with them. Uh-huh. You cared for them. You named them. You, literally, I slept with them. At the show, we get the fluffy straw and everything. And then you showed them. And like I said, I was very good at what I did. Mm-hmm. So I earned trophies. I earned money. And then we as soon as you got home, you flipped them out back into the herd, and they were wild like that. Mm-hmm. Like literally a switch was flipped, and you could never approach them again.
Isn't that crazy? You're like, all that work and you forget me in a second.
And you only knew, usually I did Holsteins, you only knew which one it was based, because it still was shaved from the show. Mm-hmm. Their hair was still, Yeah.
But because they just went rogue afterwards, there was no.
Well, he was back with the herd. He's like, well, this is herd mentality again, mm-hmm. and I it was fine. I got my money, and my lessons and my life experience, and they're like, okay, we'll do this all over again next year. And it was some people were like, oh, but you had to sell it, and it became meat, and
not always, but not always, but sometimes, yeah. Yeah, you're either breeding after that, or there are a whole lot of different ways that it can go. But yeah, they're work animals. It's not
not your pet.
No, no. But it kind of keeps that distance. I don't know. You still create relationship, right? You still respect the animal. You still.
Oh, like I said, you name them. You definitely. they had their quirks, like you learned all about it. But yeah, you respected that animal. And of course that animal didn't want to be pampered like that. And I mean, they wanted to be with the herd. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as soon as you let them go, man, they would literally kick up their, as soon as they got out of that trailer, they would kick up their heels. And cows don't do that. Cows do. I mean, that's like a cartoon thing, but like they would kick up their heels a couple times and run around with their tails up in the air. They were so happy to be out with the herd.
They were back because that is what their brains are fully engaged to. That's what they're supposed to be. So when did hunting jump in?
It never did. Honestly, it never did until I was older. So like I said, the baby of the family.
Yeah.
Grew up in South Dakota. You think I would have gone pheasant hunting all the time, but I didn't because I was so young. My brothers always went. I mean, pheasant hunting was life. Like it was like life. It wasn't a planned thing. The guns were always in the truck. If you were out fixing fence and a pheasant flushed, you shot it and you took it home. Like it was not a thing until I grew up and I learned like what a big, like people spend thousands of dollars to go to these lodges in South Dakota, which I just think is hilarious, but whatever.
Yeah.
And so,
to each their own.
Yeah. So I didn't actually go pheasant hunting until I started working at Sportsman Channel. And I met some of the TV producers there, one of them being Melissa Bachman, who hosts Winchester Deadly Passion. And she was going on a pheasant hunt in South Dakota. And I was like, hey, I would really like to do this with you. And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to film it even. So let's film us pheasant hunting, which filming pheasant hunting is a lot like filming fishing. For some people, it's like watching paint dry. It's extremely difficult to pull off a quote unquote exciting pheasant hunt for TV. But we did our best. I mean, we did our best. We shot our best. We did the cutaway interviews to me and everything, talking about my childhood. And because I was like 30 miles from where I grew up, where we were hunting. So yeah, that was a long, and it wasn't that my dad, I don't think like neglected me per se from hunting, but that I was a girl, I was the baby of the family, and I had two older brothers and they did the hunting. End of story.
Right. No, I have said over and over in countless interviews or conversations, I was never told I couldn't, ever.
Right.
There was never, and some people might have, some women might have at times, but I was never told as a kid growing up, you cannot hunt. In my family, nobody hunted in my family. And so there just wasn't opportunity, but there were tons of friends around me that did. It just was kind of assumed that I wouldn't have wanted to. So I just wasn't asked.
Right. It was implied.
Right. Now, I don't know. I think that if I had been asked, I would have said, yeah, I'd like to try it. But I didn't even know, I think at the time, that it was something I could do. Right. It just wasn't a thing. But yeah, I was never told I couldn't. It just wasn't an opportunity given until later. So I can't sit here and go, well, why didn't you include me? Why did you tell me I couldn't? It had nothing to do with that. My younger brothers.
No, right. I can't get upset with my parents.
My younger brothers hunted, but my stepdad learned how to hunt because they wanted to learn how to. And it was because their buddies were. And so their hunting life didn't even start until high school. So we hunted for the first time this year together, all together. And it was so cool. We wanted to take my baby brother on a duck hunt before he shipped off with the Army overseas. And we just all got to go. And they were like, we're going to do this again. We had just never done it together.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was fun. But okay, so you started with pheasant.
Yes.
As an adult, is there anything under your belt since then, since you started with that? Did it kind of create a rolling ball, or was that just kind of what you stuck with?
Yeah, for a little while there, because of the opportunities I did have with Sportsman Channel, and at the time I was director of communications, so I had a lot of connections in the industry. I did a turkey hunt with another TV show. I've been on a few TV shows, but like in the 2000s, no one ever watched them. But anyway, so I was on a turkey hunt in Indiana with another TV producer. He shot the Tom, I shot the Jake. I don't know about that. Anyway, we won't get into that. Like, why would you take a newbie on a hunt and make them shoot the Jake and you shoot the Tom and you shot like a million your entire life? But whatever. But that was great. I think the thing I loved about that turkey hunt the most was that, we were up at like 4:35 out in the blind. We were actually in a blind in a field. I shot the bird. We were eating breakfast by 7.
Isn't that awesome?
And I was like,
I could do this.
I don't know how hard this is, you guys. I don't understand what the problem is.
See, and I got my first turkey this year after 3 years of hunting a turkey.
Yeah, see, I was definitely spoiled. And I've gone out turkey hunting a few times on private property, with a couple friends after that. And then I've done a goose hunt. I'd done a goose hunt with then Congressman Paul Ryan out of Madison. He represented in Madison, Wisconsin. That was also filmed for TV. Paul Ryan was a huge, huge hunter. I mean, when he was going for the office, I think his code name was Bow Hunter.
That's awesome.
With Secret Service. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And then I've been on some, deer hunting in South Dakota and deer hunting in Minnesota, Wisconsin are two different things, even though we're like a couple 100 miles apart. It's a complete different mentality. Yeah. The styles are different. Like, I didn't understand tree stands and blinds. I'm like, what do you mean you're in a tree stand? Because A, we don't even have tree stand. We don't have trees in South Dakota. And B, like, why are you sitting in a blind? Like, what the hell are you doing?
It is quite different. Like, you have been to Nashville. You have seen the terrain, that the woods and you've got some fields that you're in, but I've done both here in Tennessee. I started hunting from a tree stand. I have hunted from a strap-on. I've hunted from the ground, and I've gotten deer all of those different ways. Running and gunning and sitting in a tree, and they each have their story, right? They each have their reason for it. When I started, we were hunting on 5 acres, and you're just hoping that the deer pass through. You're hoping that in the off season, you created such a habit of them wanting to walk through from a bedding area to a watering area that they're just going to continue during the season. And so it's just a lot of crossed fingers and staying out of the wind. So that was my introduction to hunting was to stay out.
We didn't have, we didn't have all the gear and the improvements we have today, like we wore Carhartt.
Yeah.
And, there was no wind detection or all that. Yeah.
But I think that the fascination that I've had from it is, holy cow, how different each day can be. I have been in a tree stand and I've seen them move and I know where they're going. So I'm going to get down and go after them. It creates opportunity where you don't quite know where your day is going to go. And I think that's the most exciting part to me. But I can't wait. I'm coming over west to Montana in November for a mule deer hunt. And it is going to be completely different than anything I've ever experienced. And that's the joy of the outdoors world, is you can travel wherever and hunt different species or even the same species in a different place and be learning constantly.
And it's a completely different hunt and a completely different set of skills that you need.
Yeah. I'm excited to be going with women, and we're gonna do our damnedest to bring home deer. But
best of luck to you.
Thank you. So I want to switch gears just a little bit and kind of trickle into POMA, because POMA has kind of, like, we had talked during the conference about the value of POMA. And if you're listening and you don't know what POMA is the Professional Outdoor Media Association. Michelle is president, and it has changed over the past couple of years, and I think in a positive way. So give us just, how did you first get involved with POMA?
I've been involved since day one. I was there when POMA split off from OWAA back in the day, because I was at the time the director of communications for Sportsman Channel. So I was a corporate partner, and we saw the value in being members of both organizations. Like, we understood the split, but we still saw the value. So I was still going to like OWAA conferences, and then I was going to POMA conferences. That went on for a little while until I was at an OWAA conference, and then I sponsored a dinner. And so I was speaking, right? Sponsoring a dinner is a big deal because you get up and speak.
Exactly.
And one of the board of directors at the time, this is like 10 years ago, maybe longer, asked me about kill shots on Sportsman Channel and why we did kill shots and what the point was. And mind you, I was like a PR director in my early 30s, and this older gentleman was like grilling me about kill shots, which I have zero control over.
Right.
And that kill shot genre, that whole piece of the hunt has definitely changed from the 1980s, 90s, 2000s to today. What is acceptable, what isn't acceptable.
Right.
And so after that, we actually pulled out of OWAA because we saw that it just wasn't where we, being the Sportsman Channel, and our hunt, shoot, fish culture, needed to be. And so we did do more with POMA. And so that's how I always saw myself doing something with POMA and being more involved with POMA. And it's a long tail. I mean, it took me a long time. 15 years, I guess.
It's an investment.
Right. So yeah, I'm glad to finally be here and to be able to enact change for the good. And there has been, like you said, positive movement in the last couple of years. And I think one of those positive movements is us not changing who we are, but embracing all those who want to know more and are doing more and are learning more about the outdoors, whether it's hunt, shoot, fish, camp, hike, whatever. You are welcome at POMA. And if you're a content creator, you're welcome at POMA. If you're a blogger, you're welcome. I mean, it doesn't, however you generate that media to educate others. We learned a few years ago, like, we need to embrace the content creators and get and help them and get them over here. And I think that's made a huge difference.
I think so too. And I think that, with anything, you have to evolve with time, and you have to evolve with how media is evolving. It's not just print anymore. And it's not just, there's so much more when describing media now than there was even 15 years ago. So as you evolve, you have to kind of ask what criteria should be, like, what standard should this be held at? Because communication is vital to getting the message across for how important the outdoors is and protecting the outdoors. And the word conservation is thrown out so much, but when it comes down to it, it's just communication of what real people are doing to save what we've got right now and make it better.
Exactly.
And so that standard for the level of communication is important. It's not just any Joe Schmo off the street who can pretend they know what they're talking about. It's real value that brings the standard to a level that's good.
And I think like all levels are welcome. I mean, there is criteria, but like if you are starting out, I mean, there's associate member.
A place. Yes.
Yeah, there's a place for you. And then as you get more under your feet, then you can climb that membership rank and be a voting member. So yeah, that is on purpose, to know that it's okay. You can be right out of college, or you can be in college and not have a lot on your resume, and you're still welcome at POMA.
Yeah. Yep. And I was talking to a couple of people who have been there for a couple of years. This was my first year at the conference, first year being a part of POMA, but I talked to a couple of people who have been there for a long time. And the amount of women there this year was so exciting to everybody across the board.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
It was a good thing, though. I think
it was. Yeah, but usually, I am used to being a very male dominated area. I mean, before Sportsman Channel, even I worked for a wholesale auto auction that my parents owned. And I was the only female amongst all men. And so I'm used to being the only woman in the room, which is probably also why I have a kind of an edge to me. And that's also where that probably comes from. But, and I think it's just the industry as a whole is welcoming more women into its fold. More women are learning to use their voice.
Yes.
And I'm not talking just influencers. I mean, like yourself as a podcaster, as a content creator, Adrian that you just interviewed before this with Review This Thing. I mean, women are just saying, hey, I like this. I want to do it. So I'm going to pursue it.
Right.
And they just do it.
Right. I was talking to somebody yesterday, actually, about how influential a woman's voice is. And if you are anywhere in the public eye, you are influencing. That's just how it is. If your page is public and somebody, even if it's just one person, is following you, you are influencing that person. You have influence over people. But I think that the voice of a woman is standing out as being, especially in the outdoors, is standing out as being one that is easier to talk to. There's empathy that comes from a woman. And I'm not saying that men don't have empathy, but when a woman is having a conversation with someone, whether they're a man or a woman, that empathy comes out. And there's a little bit of, there's the ability for me to go to a non-hunter and have a conversation and find common ground without me needing to win an argument. I would rather have mutual respect over one common thing than stepping out and having to have them agree with me on everything. I just don't, that's not necessary. And I think that I'm able to build rapport. I'm able to build a mutual respect. We're able to have more conversations. And a year down the road, we might have a different kind of conversation that brings them into being a hunting supporter or an angler supporter versus going in the opposite direction.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that we do. I think that people are noticing that women do have a voice right now, and they have a very important voice right now. And you have to choose then how to use your voice. So it is, are you going to use it to push yourself up, or are you going to look at the bigger picture and see that the outdoors is important, and let's utilize your voice in that way? I think that the women's voice is now being seen as not just influential, but valuable in the media for the outdoors. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that is why you're seeing more women in it. I think it's not just on their own, but I think that publications are seeing how important that voice is. So they're bringing more women on, and they're seeing how people are listening to people like myself and like you and others that have conversations that are welcoming, that see the other side. Mm-hmm. Carly Brosseau just did a conversation on a YouTube thing that was vegans versus hunters. And that could have gone awry. It could have been defensive. It could have gone any way. But when I started looking through the comments, and I watched the whole thing, and I started looking through the comments, there were people on there who weren't hunters, who were against hunting, but they saw the respect that came from the conversation. They saw her in a moment of a question being asked saying, I don't know the answer to that. Or I respect your lifestyle because that's your choice. And they go, well, maybe hunters aren't all that bad. And it's all in how you communicate. And I think that that's why outdoor media is so important. But what do you have? So with your role in the outdoor industry, because you're not just a president of POMA, give us a little bit of background on what you have been doing in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I actually just celebrated my 10-year anniversary of being out on my own. So after Sportsman Channel, I went out on my own and became a consultant or an entrepreneur, which I came from a family of entrepreneurs. You know, my dad farming, mm-hmm. My mom had her own business as well. And so it wasn't something I strived for. I wasn't seeking to do this on my own, but at the time, my boss at Sportsman Channel said, you really need to do this. I think you can do this. Mm-hmm. So I guess with his encouragement of just saying that simple sentence, I struck out on my own and I kept Sportsman Channel as a client even, and I still have, and then they merged with Outdoor Channel mm-hmm. and World Fishing Network and all the publications to create Outdoor Sportsman Group. And so I still have them as a client to this day, which is great. Most of my clients I've had over the 10 years that I've been in business, mm-hmm. which I know is unusual.
It is.
For a consultancy such as myself. But I am actually friends with my clients. Mm-hmm. I've been in weddings. I attend functions. I'm pretty close, which again, a lot of people will argue that's not best practices. You shouldn't become friends with your clients. It could lead to detrimental things. And I actually see the opposite of that. I see that closeness only making our relationship and our professional relationship stronger and better.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's like you said, it's relationship. It is the mm-hmm. trust that comes with that. It's the ability to say, hey, I'm speaking into this, not just because you have hired me, but because I know you.
Right. And I care.
Yes.
I mean, not to say that any other agency doesn't care about their client, but like, I truly care. Mm-hmm. I live or die. If something happens on my watch, I live or die by that. And if my client texts me at 8 p.m. at night and they need something, last minute that, oopsies, I forgot, and I know it's important, I get it done. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we do respect one another, and we don't typically talk on the weekends. We respect each other's time but we remember birthdays, we remember anniversaries.
Yeah. It's personal.
Right.
It's
I guess that's the
personal.
only way I know how to do business.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know any other way.
I don't think I do either.
Yeah. Like you can go round and round with people about, like I said, the pros and cons of doing that. But I tell when I propose new business, when I'm meeting a prospective client, I've learned to tell them now that, look, I know you're hiring me to help you with your social media, but just know that I'm going to get all up in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to want to know everything about your business, because knowing everything about your business just helps me do it better.
Yeah. It also helps you to protect. It helps you to, well, and that all goes hand in hand. As a family photographer or a birth photographer, whatever, I just don't do weddings. I don't have. I get it. Yeah. I don't have the mental strength to deal.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody else, like, once you're wedded, bring me your business. And it becomes.
Take 6 months.
Yes.
Calm the hell down. Give me a call.
Yes. But I become part of their family. Like, I've had clients that I have been with for almost a decade and a half. And it's because it's relational. It's because, like you said, I remember the birthdays. I remember the anniversaries. I remember the things that happen that aren't great, and check in. And I think I think businesses have lost that. They have gone in the opposite direction of keeping it very stoic and very personal. Yeah, very separated, because then when there's a separation, there's no hurt. There's no drama. It's just all cut and dry.
Always looking for, like, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. And I don't care if it's marriage or relationship or business. The grass ain't greener on the other side of the fence, people. Okay.
No, it has its own problems over there too.
Right. You can fire your agency and be like, I'm going to get a brand new agency who has all these great ideas. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, they might have a few great ideas, but they're probably going to come up with the same shit that your previous agency was doing.
It's true. It's true, because if your current agency is telling you need to change this, and this, there is probably a reason. And you're not going to get a different answer from somebody else, because they're just wanting to help you. They're just wanting to push. Right. They're just that growth. And if you're doing something that's keeping you from doing that, then they're just going to push you no matter where you go. But yeah, do you have any suggestions for people if they are out there looking for who, I'm sure you've got a lot, but do you have, if somebody is, say, I'm looking for the top 3 things in an agency, what should those 3 things be?
A lot of businesses are learning the nimbleness of working with a solopreneur like myself. And not to say, like, there's a lot of solopreneurs who have their hands in many other, like, we have contacts and we do sub out things. So at times I can be a little mini agency. You just don't really know it. It's just all on the back end. But as the business that you're hiring me, you get me. What you see is what you get. And with an agency, sometimes you get the intern. Yeah. Oh shit, that person left. Now we got to bring someone new in.
Yes.
Like
constant turnover.
Right. And agencies bill differently. I do a monthly retainer. I don't care if I work 10 hours. I don't care if I work 60 hours. I honestly don't care about the hours, because I look at the work and I figure out the monthly retainer from there. And some months are good and some months aren't so good. But at the end of the day, it really does all even out.
Right.
So I don't worry about it like an agency would worry about it more, because they have employees. I mean, they have payroll to make, they have insurance to pay out. And I don't have that. Thank God. There's a lot of pros and cons with agencies versus a solopreneur. And I guess the second thing I would look at is, I mean, you as the business need to be truthful with whoever you're hiring. You need to not lie to yourself, not lie to that person. Because a lot of times people are withholding information back because they're lying to themselves, to be honest with you. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. But being able to be honest with one person versus a whole crew is a little bit, I guess, a softer cushion, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And realize, and a lot of people just aren't clear on their goals. They just aren't, and they think they know one thing because they read an article on Huffington Post, or their neighbor told them this, that, and that they should be doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, you're hiring me as an expert, or you need to listen to that expert because they've been doing it for a long time. So be very clear in your goals and what you want to accomplish. And if you don't know that, then be honest on that too.
Yeah, because there's troubleshooting on that. 3 years ago when I got on social media for hunting, it was because I saw an albino deer and didn't shoot it as a hunter. In Tennessee, you can't. So I was abiding by the rules.
Oh.
I don't know if I would have anyways. It was a very
right.
It was a very spiritual thing for me. It was anyways, that was personal choice, but it went crazy. Like, it went everywhere. And I met with somebody. How do I handle this? How do I where do I go from here? And the first question they asked me was, well, where do you want it to go? What are your goals? How do you want to play off of this? And at the time, I did not know. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And they said, that's okay. It's okay for you not to know. You need to investigate it. You need to kind of dig deep and see, what do you want to do with that? Do you want to go somewhere with that? Or do you want to step back and look at something else? And the way that I stepped back and started investing in relationships through social media, it built into finding my passion, which was talking to people like you. And I don't think 3 years later, it did not even, I could not have even guessed that this is where I would be 3 years ago. And if I had rushed into something at that point in time, I would not be where I am today. So for somebody to say, well, why don't you take a step back and just figure it out? Then
that was a gift,
right? It wasn't capitalizing on what kind of money they could have made or what kind of push this that they could have done. It was, if they knew that if I didn't have passion behind it, and if it wasn't something that organically could happen, that it wasn't going to happen. And that takes self-control. That takes the ability to say, not right now. And that's okay. So you need people to speak truth into your life, and you need to find somebody that can do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm very good at being honest and truthful. So.
I know you are. And that's
probably
good.
To my detriment, but
I know you are. But that kind of goes hand in hand with, I think, and I've had conversations about this at POMA as well. I think that people are starting to steer away from the fake. And I think they're starting to recognize
it. Like, they're starting to recognize what it is.
They're getting tired of it. They're getting tired of pretend, and they want real, and they want that authentic, organic, like, give me the good, bad, and the ugly, because it's real. Right. I don't want to follow somebody and follow their life story if everything is rainbows and unicorns. Mm-hmm. I need to know that they are somebody I can relate to, that I can see struggling, because it is not easy, whether you're hunting, fishing, backpacking, climbing, whatever you're doing, homesteading. If you're just, an entrepreneur, if you if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a single mom, if you are whatever you are, I need to know real. And I think that is kind of where we're leaning into with media, is I'm tired of the fake bullshit.
Right. And Instagram is seeing that too. I mean, that's why you're seeing all these changes with the algorithm. And, they have bots now that are reading the photo and deciding if the photo is matching the caption. I mean, it's insane. And that's all because of influencers. Like, people love to quote unquote game the system.
Yep.
And it's now you've really messed it up. So congratulations. But if you were just authentic and true from the very beginning, you wouldn't have to game the system.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. And I don't know if it's, they don't want to be themselves on social media. Like, they want to be this different persona.
It'll catch up to you.
Yeah. I mean, either you're going to hate yourself,
burn out,
or you're going to fall. I mean, you're just going to fall off social media. You're going to realize, well, this really isn't for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the real people who you're not going to run out of content when it's real. You're not going to run out. You're not going to post something just to post something because you have to. And you still have people that do that, but you start noticing. You start looking, you start seeing who is paying for those likes and for the followers, because everybody's looking at engagement. I am looking at how you are conversating with people, how you're engaging them, how you are creating conversation, how you're educating. Because if it's just a picture and a caption and then all of these comments and you haven't responded once, I'm like, that's not.
Oh, I love, it's not even so much in our industry. I mean, this is just
everywhere.
Rampant. Everywhere. Yeah. But I love and it's usually a woman. It's like a beautiful picture of this woman doing whatever the hell she's doing, selling whatever the hell she's selling.
Yeah.
And it's like these stupid ass quotes that they put in, and then like a couple of emojis, right?
Yeah.
And then they have like 1,000 comments, and they don't respond to any of it.
None.
And then there's this one particular, she actually sells purses. She kind of revamps vintage purses, which is a cool business plan. And then I was watching her stories the other day, and she's like, "Oh, do you guys want me to teach you how to do social media?" And I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Like, what?
No, I don't.
Now you're going to pivot from selling purses to teaching people how to do social media because you have like 100,000 followers because you sell freaking purses. Okay.
No, I hate to say stay in your lane, but those are the kind of situations where I want to say that. And it is something that, I do notice when I'm looking for people to talk to. I do notice, do you have 100,000 followers and then you have 2 likes, or you have 1 comment and you didn't even respond back to that 1 comment? Like, come on. That's not real. That's not engagement. You are not trying to communicate. You are not trying to educate. Like, there's no engagement. And I think that, like we said before, people are getting tired of that. Yeah. I think COVID shifted us into that. I think that the desire for relationship through friendship, through business relationships, whatever it is, I think that COVID shifted us into, we need that more. Because when you lose it face to face, you start craving it. And I guess if we were looking for a pro to come from that, maybe that COVID shifted us into needing real engagement, real relationship. Thanks.
Or at least spotting the fake. Yeah.
Spotting the fake. Yeah.
Learning that, I don't know what some of these people are doing, but anyway, that's another conversation.
That is a whole nother conversation. I did want to ask you, being in the industry, and I'm putting that in quotations, being in the outdoor industry, what are some of the pros and cons have you seen that affect your outdoor living, the way that the outdoors still I guess, moves through you? How has it affected you in a positive way of getting you out more to where you can really enjoy it? Or has there been a few cons in making it more business related versus personal?
Yeah, it is more business. I would say that. My non-business stuff tends to be kayak camping trips with my girlfriends, stuff that doesn't involve hunting. I actually probably would never go hunting with a group of women, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I've seen and heard.
Yeah. No, I agree. I have
absolute horror stories.
Yep. I have been on one of those. We could talk later about that. But I've also been on 2 really great ones. And
well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope this next one is just as great. Like, seriously, eyes wide open. Right.
Right.
But I think it's opened up my eyes too, to all the different opportunities. I was the first one in my household between my husband and I to own a gun. I owned a few guns before my husband really got into it. And now he's super into it. He used to hunt with his dad when he was like teenager. They would bow hunt. They went gun hunt, and that was in Wisconsin. And now he has talked to me about wanting to do a mule deer hunt for whatever reason. I don't know. And so,
yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, like I've literally been in this industry for 20 years and
he's jumping on board.
He's been with me we've been together since I was 18. So he's been with me that entire time, but yeah, it's coming full circle finally. And I think it's a great industry it's a very small industry, which people don't really understand or realize. It's a very small industry, and I really enjoy being a part of it. I think I was made for it. I think everything that from working at the car auction with a bunch of crooks to working at Sportsman Channel, all of it, has led me here, and it's for a reason. God put me on this path. So,
yeah, I think that is one of, like, when you're starting to think about being involved, not just in your day-to-day enjoying it for your own personal pleasure, but when you jump into the other side of it, you kind of have to ask yourself how and what sacrifices are you willing to take? Where's that line? And setting that line. It's like I used to work in healthcare. I used to work in the OR. Well, where was the line? When or what would be my line of I don't need to be here anymore? It's when I lose a patient. Do I still feel that grief, or am I just packing up and moving on to the next patient? And at that point in time, when the empathy is gone, when the feelings and the emotions are gone, then I'm like, ooh, I can't do this anymore. I need to take a step back. That's burnout. You lose humanity a little bit in it. So stepping into the industry of the outdoors, are you losing the fun? Are you losing that spark? And I think that it goes back to what we were talking about, not being real and authentic. It becomes the job versus why you do it. And I think that those two things can overlap as long as you stay on track and as long as you still have that passion for it, then you will still receive out of it as well as give into it.
Yeah, for me, it's not so much the outdoors industry as it's about me being a social media manager, a social media consultant.
Yeah.
I am ruined on social media. Like, if I, just between all of us here on this podcast, if I weren't doing social media, I would not be on Facebook. Absolutely. I would have gotten rid of that years ago.
Yeah.
And I would probably have just kept Instagram, because my husband and I send each other cat videos literally all day long. We send each other cat videos on Instagram.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be on Facebook, except I still have grandparents that are on Facebook, and that's the only way that they get to see pictures of family, but that's personal, not business.
Yep.
Yeah.
So social media has kind of ruined me a little bit for my own social media stuff. Like I actually don't post that often on my own account. I'm a social media manager with 900 followers. Some people would say, well, you're really shitty at your job. And my response is, it's not about me.
Yep.
It's absolutely not about me. It's about my clients. And,
Right.
and see, I get that from being a PR person for a national cable network, because if you're a PR person, I don't care where you're at, you could be the PR person for frickin' Target. It's not about you,
No.
the PR person. It's about Target.
Yeah.
And people don't really understand that when they become a social media manager, especially in the outdoor industry. Holy shit, the egos. Wow. Like they think it's about them, and they create accounts, and they're, and I don't even talk about my clients that much. Like I don't post on social media all the things I'm doing for my clients, like, because it's none of your freaking business.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not your life. I mean, it is your life business wise, but it's not your personal life. It's not.
Right.
Yeah. You're able to kind of keep them separate on that account.
I have to, because I do get social media burnout, and that's when I just kind of go dark, on social media, period. I just, even with POMA, I did not take selfies with people. I didn't post very much during the conference. I wanted to be there.
Yes.
In
Same.
the moment.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sit here and be like, oh, what kind of picture can I post? Or what kind of, video can I do? Like,
no, I just wanted to take it in.
Yeah. And I just wish more people would do that. Like, I appreciate the content for POMA. I appreciate using the hashtag and tagging.
Yeah.
But just
there's balance.
Live in the moment.
There's balance. I can't tell you how many hunts I've been on with people. And they're like, Amy, can you send us the pictures that you took? You're a photographer. I'm like, I didn't even pull my phone out. I was shooting things.
Oh, snap. Oh.
I wasn't even like.
Did you hire?
No.
Karen, did you hire me as a photographer on this hunt? No, I'm a hunter on this hunt.
I came to experience that. Yes. And if I was hired for that, well, that's different. Then I'm coming to do a job.
It's a whole different mindset. It's 100%. A whole different mindset.
I still want to enjoy myself out there. I still want to be, if I am with people, I want to experience being with them and learning from them. Like the learning part is what I take in the most. But when I'm by myself, I just want to be by myself. I want to enjoy what I'm doing in that moment, not feel like it's got to be documented the whole time. I'm
definitely taking less pictures the older I get.
Yeah. Yeah. To the detriment of my family, I'm the same. Like, let's just live in this moment, put everything away. And there's value in that, I think, big time. So, well, there was one more thing that I wanted to ask you, and it kind of goes back to mentors, because I believe that teaching and passing on is the best way for us to continue what we're doing. And I didn't know if you had any along whether it's in just the outdoors or it's in the business, or that you wanted to kind of shout out to or give advice on.
I'm such a loner. I am like, probably goes back to that childhood thing, right? I'm so independent. I'm such a loner. I always sought out mentors, but maybe I did a shitty job of connecting with them. I don't know. Maybe they were just crappy mentors. I don't know, but
it happens. It happens.
But I think, there are definitely people that helped me along the way. I started working at Sportsman Channel. One of the co-founders, Todd Hansen, he was the one that actually encouraged me to go out on my own when my time there was done.
Yeah.
And he was always an entrepreneur his entire life. He was always a businessman his entire life. So I think, I don't know if he meant to mentor me, but I think, like you said, you see the actions that others take.
They're louder than words sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think when I started moving out on my own, there's a lady who was actually the first female president of POMA. Believe it or not, I'm not the first female president. Her name was Tammy Diane Sapp, and she's going to hate me for calling her out. But she was the director of communication. She was the head PR lady at National Wild Turkey Federation under Rob Keck for about 20, 25 years. And then she moved into the head director of communications position at Bass Pro Shops.
Okay, yeah.
Which was a really shitty job from what I can understand. So I don't recommend doing that. And now she works for the Florida, state kind of DNR conservation people, whatever, they call it Florida. And so she's always been, because she kind of paved the way for, a female in a very male dominated industry. And she's also a workaholic. I am not a workaholic, but I remember spending time with her at SHOT Show when you're on the floor from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And then you're going out for dinner until 10 p.m. And she was back in her room working
right
until midnight or whatever. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, we need this. I have to get this done. I'm like, yeah, but you worked all day. Like, you've been working. And she's like, we need this done. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. So
you kind of see what to do and what not to do and take what is needed to apply to your life and what works in your life. And I think that those are valuable lessons that you take from people who not just inspire you, but mentor you. I think there's a difference between inspiration, like gathering inspiration from people, and actually being mentored by people. But I think that you can have mentors that they might not have even known that they were your mentors.
Yeah. And I still stay in touch with Tammy here and there. We're actually have the same birth date. So I think that's one of the reasons why we connect so well. But I think you're right. I think she inspired. I was going to climb the corporate ranks. Okay. In my 20s, I was going to be somebody. I was the first person in my family to get a college degree. And I was the youngest of 4. My dad only went to like 6th grade, and he's owned multiple $1 million businesses. My mom, God love her, didn't graduate high school because she got pregnant with my sister. Shit happens. They're married 55 years. Everything turned out okay.
Yeah.
So, but so I was like, I'm going to be somebody, I'm going to climb the corporate ranks. I had this vision of driving a really nice car and making $100,000 a year, because back then 6 figures, 6 figures. That was like the thing. And I was going to be like vice president of whatever the hell. And somewhere along the line, probably when I struck out on my own, I realized, holy shit, I do not want that at all. I do not want to be the vice president of a corporation for Bass Pro Shops or Target or Best Buy or any of those large corporations, because
that's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah. No. But it takes working in the to figure out that's not what you want. It's seeing what somebody else has to go through to be there, that you go, ooh, that's a valuable lesson to take with me. And I think that a lot of people, if they don't stand back and look at the bigger picture of that they miss it. And then they wonder where the hell they are at the end. Like when they finally get there, like, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
This is not what I signed up for, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, we started the conversation. Grass is not greener on the other side.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, you think that position is so glamorous and, oh my God, you do this, that. And it's a lot of hard work. And like I said, I'm kind of lazy. I do not like working that hard. So
there is importance in balance between work and play is just as important, if not more. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me and talking. I love to know the backgrounds of people. I love to know what makes you tick. And I think that getting those kind of details, it again goes back to relationship. It goes back to real. It goes back to not everything's perfect, but this is why I've made the choices that I've made. And this is why I am who I am today. And so I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. No regrets. Absolutely no regrets.
No. Tell people how they can follow you.
If you like wine and cat videos, you can follow me on Instagram at Lady Sportsman. Lady Sportsman is the handle that I started on Twitter when Twitter first, I was there when Twitter first started.
Twitter.
I was still looking at Sportsman channel. Yeah. I was super into Twitter. Now I hate it. Anyway, but
a whole nother podcast.
Lady Sportsman. If you want to talk social media, if you're having troubles with your social media, I can certainly help you out or point you in the right direction as well.
Yeah. You are a valuable source of information, and you do a great job of, if you don't know, pointing people in the direction they need to go in. So I think that's an attribute not many people have, and I respect that.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you.